everybody, it's Mandy from Chapel Forge. So as you know, we are working on setting up this homestead. So as I've mentioned before, we have like 4-ish acres of open space, and then we have like 9-ish acres of woods or something like that. We'll measure it sometime so we know for sure, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. So today, our chickens from the other house, if you saw that hilarious video of us trying to catch all of our chickens, they've been living in this big coop that was here when we moved in. It's awesome. It's probably just big enough for how many chickens I have. I have 2 other coops. One coop is already in here. The other coop's still at the other house. It is coming next weekend. So we're just doing the best we can with what we have at this point, making it work. So they've been in there. They're amazingly still giving me like a few dozen eggs a day, which I'm shocked about after moving and not being able to be out on pasture. I can't even believe that they're still giving me eggs. I thought for sure they were going to be pissed and just revolt. When I brought in, I did some documentation of this, but when I brought in like 30 chickens last year, full grown, and integrated them with my flock, I didn't get eggs for like 2 months. They were not very happy with me. So I thought for sure that they were going to have a temper tantrum about this, but they've been doing awesome. So I can't complain about that. Okay, so I'm going to have Zad show you a little bit of the basics on how to set up an energized fence or an electric fence. It can be kind of daunting if you've not done it before. Zad is really good at this. He always says he feels like he's not, but he 100% is. So he's going to show you how to do it. We've used solar fence and plug-in fence. This is going to be a plug-in fence. We'll show you a solar fence another time, but they're a great option too if you don't have power run. Thankfully, this building right here, which I'm working on a video on to show you, used to be an outhouse. We're converting it into a grain shed, so stay tuned. That one's coming. So we are going to take this outhouse, turn it into a grain shed, but it was the perfect spot to put the Energizer for the chicken fence because it already had power. So I'm going to have Zad explain this to you.
So you need a grounding rod and you need your hot line.
What's a hot line?
Hot line is the line that gives power to the fence. And
there's always a
do
rooster.
A video here.
Right, there's always a rooster interrupting.
So this is a steel rod, copper coated.
Got it at Tractor Supply. They're like 30 bucks.
6 foot long. This is very, very, very rocky ground here. I mean, everything's pretty much this. So I was able to get it 3 feet in the ground. The more you have in the ground, the better. But I was able to get 3 feet in the ground. So we use a masonry bit and a tack con to attach the box here so that it hangs. It's an old school box. We got it at a yard sale. It works.
Yeah. They're not cheap. If you buy them new, they're not cheap. So when my mom found them at a yard sale for us, she's like, "Do you want me to get these?" I was like, "Heck yeah, they were worth the chance."
One works, one doesn't.
Hey, we still won.
So this is your ground post. This is your positive post. This is your energized post. This is the one that will shock you. This has a porcelain piece on it. So what I'm doing is I'm running the ground line down the block, and it's fine. It doesn't need to be insulated because it's just a ground line.
And the ground line is the spool of wire that we bought yesterday, right?
One of the 2 spools.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna fold this over.
And when you're at Tractor Supply, it says ground line on it. Or what would it be called?
This is just high tensile line fence, for like your fencing.
Okay.
But it'll do the job. So I'm just making this a little bit thicker, a little bit wider, so when it goes down in here, it has a little bit more to grab onto.
And if you don't have wire cutters or whatever, can you use something else? Right, get you some. Can you use something else? Could you use pliers?
Yeah, I mean, these are called lineman's pliers. You have the plier part here, and you have the cutting jaw here. They're great tools. Like, I always have my Leatherman on me, or not Leatherman, sorry, Gerber multi-tool. I always have this on me. This is a little thick for these cutters here. They're just not quite as strong. You can see as far as the handle's a little longer, so you have a little bit more leverage. I love these. Sometimes I wish I had bigger ones. These were given to me as a gift for making my Eagle Scout, but they're always
Many
on
moons ago.
Many moons ago. They're always on me. But like I don't have a Phillips screwdriver today because some of my tools are still at the old place, but I have one here. So once I run the ground into this post here, so this clamps onto the rod. This has a little screw here where this grounding rod will come into, and then you're just going to tighten this up as tight as you can get it without stripping the screw head. And so now the grounding line is done. I mean, it's not as pretty as it could be, but right now we're going for functionality more than prettiness.
We don't even have our house set up. We're setting up our animals before our house. So, you know, we're just getting them so that they can be healthy and happy, get us set up, and then we'll bougie them up later.
So that's the ground line portion. Then we're gonna move on to the hot line portion. Now this one, you can do it many different ways. The safer way is to do it with insulated wire.
That's what we got, right?
Yeah. So this is galvanized steel fence wire, 14 gauge, 200 feet, high breaking strength, galvanized. So this is what I use for the ground wire.
And we just got that at Tractor Supply. You could probably definitely get it at any farm store, hardware store.
This is 50 feet underground, 12.5 gauge wire. Tags missing, part of the tags missing. So
also from Tractor Supply.
yeah. Any of your local.
Mostly because
farm.
we're new. We found a really cool store yesterday that has farming and fencing supplies, but we didn't know about it before we went to Tractor Supply. So we'll be supporting them in the future, but Tractor Supply came through for us.
So this is what it looks like. This is your insulated coating. This is your wire. Not much different than this, just has insulating properties to it. So this, I'm going to run from this post up, across, and down to our fence. So this is going to be a little bit.
And why do you want insulated on this one?
Otherwise, you're going to get shocked.
Okay.
Or it'll ground out, which will then take away the strength of the ability for your fence to shock either A, your livestock to keep them in the fence, or B, your predators trying to get into the fence to your livestock. So with having the kids, having Mandy coming in and out of this building, the brick will be more of a conductor than the wood. The wood is more of an insulator, but I have a portion of it that I have to run to that point to then go out. So it's just easier and safer and less chance of our fence not being as strong if I use insulated line than if I use this line. This, if it's touching, it doesn't matter. At least the best of my knowledge, the way I understand it. If this ground is touching the block, it's not going to cause any problems. But if you have your power line, your hot line, the energized line, that could be an issue. So I spent a few bucks more, got the already pre-insulated instead of me sitting here trying to insulate it to run it up and over and down. So we'll start with this. So what it is, we took the insulated wire with fence staples and we went up along the center block, across the wooden portion of the building and down, because this is where our fence is going to start. We decided to put it here instead of on the other side because more than likely this end will never move, where the other end may have to get tore down for certain instances or projects.
It's part, so the run runs right along like the road that comes up along the property. So like when the shed hauler
Our service road, not like a
right, not like a
road.
public road. Yeah, just our service road. So if like when the shed hauler comes, or like we're trying to move things around, or we get in a new building or whatever, then it's easy enough to move.
So that's why I wanted to put it on this side of the fence, so that way we don't have to mess with it. So typically, these are for like ribbon fences, similar to what we have here. Typically, you just hook this end to your Energizer end. But because the power supply was here, and I would have had to use an extension cord to run it over, and the fact that the door opens this way and I didn't want it to hit the door or the door hit it, I decided to run the insulated wire over to this side so that it fits our needs. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this off. I'm gonna,
and this piece we bought at Tractor Supply too, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna ditch this little pigtail. It works in the right application, not my application. So what you're gonna do is pretty much you're gonna want to take these loose enough and drop the one out. This is the Premier One fencing, poultry netting fencing that we use.
We've talked about this before. We love this. They have it for goats, sheep, chickens, turkeys, the whole deal.
So I'm going to take this and sandwich this in between these two metal plates. Like so. Actually, you know what? We're going to do this one for long term, so I'm going to do a little bit different. Just gives me a little bit more of a...
Oh, and I guess we should note too, like when we're setting this up, we're not setting up to rotate. We would love to rotate, but we just don't have that kind of property. Obviously, we don't buy properties for that, right? So yeah, the last property we lived on, if you watched any of the videos from that house, was basically on a hill. We had like an acre and a half of woods and an acre and a half of open. As I mentioned, this one is like 9-ish, maybe acres of wooded. And it's basically on a hill. I mean, we have a nice little like grassy spot here. We're going to be able to do a lot of stuff in this grassy area. But our primary goal at this property is to raise chickens, turkeys, pigs, which we have not gotten into yet, goats, which obviously we already have those because I make goat milk soap and whatever, and guineas.
Use your plastic wire nut. I don't love this one. There's another one I have that's square, and I really, really like it. It's all metal, no plastic.
Do you know where we got that one?
Him, hers.
Oh, Ace, our Ace at the old house.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, I'm gonna find my pliers.
Always, all day. Where's our tools? Find them.
It's the last place I left them.
Right.
I spent 10 minutes looking for the thing I just had 5 minutes ago. All right, so I'm gonna curl this over, make kind of like a hook for it. And I'm going to take and fish that in there like that, so it's sandwiched in between the two metal plates and the wires, the nylon wire netting. And I'm going to braid this up. And I grab that nut on the back just so it doesn't spin, to make sure that I have a nice, good, tight connection so that it doesn't work loose if the wind's blowing or anything. I ended up cutting this a little short. I cut it to the length I thought I needed that I had measured out. I probably should have left a little bit longer, but this actually will work out pretty decent. I would have liked to get it a little bit tighter up against the block wall here, or zip tied it along this conduit here, but I made it a little too taut for that. But all in all, I think it looks pretty decent for a quick, let's try to get this done in an hour job. So once we put the rest of the fencing up and tie that in, then all I have to do is come over here, take my plug end and plug it right in, and the fence will be energized. If Mandy needs to get in and adjust the fence, or I need to adjust the fence, or say we need to lift it up to weed eat and get the grass that's growing around it taken care of, if the chickens aren't doing it, then we can unplug it here. But now the energized portion is safe from shocking anyone, short of coming up and grabbing this post, which for the kids it's high enough. For her and I, not so much, but it's part of living on a farm. If you ever worked around fencing, it's inevitable you're gonna get a zap. It's not enough to kill you, it's enough to scare you or stun you a little bit, but it's not gonna hurt you. I've actually adjusted the chicken fence multiple times without turning it off, and I'm kind of used to it now. It all depends on how many volts and how many joules these Energizers kick out, and it all depends on each one, how many miles there are and how many joule ratings they are, and it also depends on what you're trying to keep in or keep out.
So as we've mentioned, it's rocky here, so getting in Premier One fencing is not the easiest task, but it'll work for now. We may not stick with this type of fencing at this property. We'll see how it goes, but it'll get them outside. They'll get sun, they'll get bugs, they can eat all this delicious everything that's in here, so it'll be fine for now. So anyway, so we ran our fence. If you're not familiar with Premier One fencing, it's really easy to use. I think these are 100-foot sections. You can get these poles and clips we actually buy the poles and clips at the hardware store, but we buy the fencing right from Premier One. You can, and I talk about these in our How to Raise Turkeys in the Woods video that we did at the other house. We talk about these poles extensively and these clips and whatever, so you can check that video out. Anyway, so you use those so you don't have sagging in your fence, but they'll have a nice big area. Dad's gonna let the chickens out. I'll show you that here in the last clip, but I hope you learned something. If you have any questions about how to put fence up, and you have to get creative about it because you have unique situations like we do, you know, not everybody lives on a perfectly flat 5, 10, 15 acres where you just easily plop it in your grassy knoll and move along. Some of us have other obstacles, and so we are here for you if you are in that situation. So if you have questions, drop them in the comments. Zad loves talking about this kind of stuff, so he can definitely try to give you some pointers to make your situation work. So I'm going to let you watch happy chickens wander out into this area. They're going to be so excited to wander in here. I'm hoping our egg production will continue to go up as they'll be happier out here. And thanks for watching.